Last week.
Listen to the recording and then help us. How about 15 minutes interest?
Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to start our February 14th meeting of the Scio Township Compensation Commission. And it is 2 o'clock. Kind of fun. And how about, who wants to do a roll call? Have we done that before? I'll do a roll call. John Boyd, oh, that's me. Commissioner Klubeck.
Present.
Commissioner Harrogate.
Here.
Commissioner Greenberg.
Present.
Commissioner Jackson.
Present.
And we do have Attorney Fink with us in the room. And let's get going. So our first item is the adoption of the agenda, and I have one note I would like to share as an option. I think in the previous 2 meetings, we actually had right after the meeting, one of the members of the public make contributions. And I'm wondering if we could have, and this is new business J5, a post-meeting public comment. I wouldn't want to do that without approving, without you all approving that, but.
Right.
Do we need a motion?
You have to have a motion?
Yeah, let's have a motion. Second.
I would like to, in honor of Rob Pattinson, whose idea this was, I would like to,
I think it was Pam.
Either way.
Doesn't matter. Yeah.
there's a lot of great people.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
didn't mean to single out one.
yeah,
Many contributors. I'd like to make a motion to add in prior to adjournment, a motion to making a motion prior to adjournment
yeah.
to provide a second period for public comment.
And I'll second that. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Wow, we're doing some work already. All right. With that in mind, we could use a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll motion to.
Okay. All right, Commissioner Harrogate, and we have a second. Any further discussion? All right, let's take a vote. All those that approve the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Okay, now we have approval of the minutes from last Friday. And there was a copy of that in the packet, and hopefully you all saw that. And
I can't get on here.
I'm pulling it up. I was hoping that they would have a hard copy for us.
Yeah.
There was a
Probably a conversion from Microsoft Word to text back. A bunch of spaces in here,
yeah.
Yeah, it's a little hard to
follow, unfortunately. But
It
if
was-
you, yeah.
Right, notes on my Mac converted to Word.
Yeah,
Okay.
to do that. If we can clean, I'm happy to do it if you send me the file.
Well, actually, the Word version didn't look this way. so-
Oh, okay, so it was when it was converted to a PDF.
Yeah, so,
All right, well, we'll get that offline and fix it next time.
yeah.
Don't
But
I'll get it from Christie
I
later.
have read and I would
I don't want you to miss
make a
anything.
motion to
Laura, I don't want
accept.
you to miss anything.
I'm sorry, did you want a discussion?
No, I wasn't.
Oh, I'd make a motion to accept the notes and there's a second.
I frankly am not sure I'm following it. Perhaps it is a Word version available.
I can't get on Wi-Fi here, so.
Yeah, I should have that in my,
If we could have those printed, perhaps we could.
Can I go ask? if-
Vote at the end of the meeting.
Is
Yeah,
that
that'd-
good?
that'd
Okay,
be
I'll be right back.
I'd like to make a motion to postpone the adoption of the meeting minutes until the end of the meeting and proceed with our normally scheduled part.
okay, approval of the minutes, and I will second that motion. And all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, so we'll add that at the end. And at the end of new business then. Okay, next up, communications to the Compensation Commission, and we don't have any. And then we have a moment for public comment. And let's see. I don't see any participants with raised hands. There's nobody local, and so it looks like we don't have any public comments for the moment. All right, so now on to new business. First off, Attorney Fink, do you have any new insights for us?
I do not.
Okay. All right, so we're ready, or we will be ready for Jessica in 10 minutes. And it looks like we might have.
She is printing those minutes. She was having trouble with the conversion.
Oh, okay.
Did you, here's the agenda.
Agenda for today.
Oh,
Oh, I grabbed one from over here.
all right.
That's okay. You're okay.
Okay, so in terms of what we'll be doing here in a few minutes, with Jessica. Remember, we do have the duty of the township officials from the Michigan Township Association. And the format we were going to use is, I think you kind of had a good handle on what you thought we should do last Friday in terms of our people. Just ask them, trying to remember what you said. Do you remember what you said?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
I suggested that rather than have them recite all their statutory duties, since we have that information in front of us, we simply ask if anything has changed, deviated from those statutory duties. And then if we had any questions about particular statutory duties, we'd ask questions about it.
And also just a distinction between their duties and the duties of their deputy.
Right, including how you divide your tasks
Thanks,
between
Christie.
yourself and your deputy.
Minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you. What's going on? Good. There you are.
Thank you. Oh, thank you.
And any other comments on how we approach this? Yeah, go ahead.
I had just one thing. I did look at the resolution just to remind ourselves that recently there was reassignments of temporary assignments for certain duties due to the fact that there'd been a resignation of the manager. And so I believe that we need to be just clear on the fact that those would not be, please correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, but I believe those would not be included in our decision-making moving forward on the statutory duties. I'm looking towards legal to get a thumbs up or down. Either one of the legals or somebody.
Either one of the legals?
Well, Jonathan.
So
He ain't no legal.
You're not legal.
No, I'm an IT guy.
He's quite illegal.
the duties of the manager, some of the duties of the manager have been divided up
Correct.
amongst the board.
Yeah, there was a resolution.
And the reason you get a lawyer answer is because, of course, it's not just, as you know, the board is not considering just but hiring another manager with exactly the same job description. So there's going to be a director of operations, which you're going to discuss that job description. But I'll just remind you that anything except statutory
Correct.
duties could change next week in 2026.
Right.
And wouldn't, there would be no adjustment by the compensation commission.
Correct. But at
until
this time, we would be
2027.
basing our decision based on statutory duties. Is that correct?
Base your decision on what this body of 5 people determine those 4 positions, supervisor, clerk, treasurer, trustee, should be paid. The statute doesn't say how you make your determination
Okay.
other than you,
Okay.
other than the time schedule, but so you can base it on anything.
Okay.
Some of anything would be a bad idea. But
Okay.
you're not restricted to just considering statutory duties.
And am I unclear? I just want to make sure I have it clear before our presentations come. I've thought that we were clarified at our last meeting that this is based on position, not person or time.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
You are making a determination of the salary for each of those 4
Mhm.
positions.
Correct.
And the criteria
That we
each
use
of
is,
you uses is not specified. The last 2 and the first 2 Scio compensation commissions determined that they should base it on what their perception of the position was, but you are not bound by what the 21 and 23 commissions did.
okay. I'll go back.
I'm not saying you shouldn't pay attention to what they did, I'm just saying you're.
No, I
What I've
understand.
said to you every
Right.
meeting is that the 5 of you figured this out.
So from a commissioner point of view, in my mind anyway, I'll say that I consider temporary duties to be just that, temporary, and not something that's gonna be in effect for the next 4 years.
Right.
That our intent is to go elsewhere as a township government. On the other hand, I did see this nice list of what are called not statutory duties of clerk, that are some things that, and this is just because I have the clerk document. A clerk could agree to do as additional non-statutory duty. If a clerk is doing things in addition to statutory duty that's all agreed upon by the township board, then
Correct.
we can take that into account. I would be willing to take that into account. There's some
I
examples.
think that's a
here.
good distinction,
Yeah.
is not necessarily whether or not it's a temporary duty. If it is a non-statutory duty that they are doing as a regular part of the job, and there's no indication that they're gonna hand it off when they hire someone, then I think that's reasonable.
So, for example, serving as Freedom of Information Act coordinator, that's not an official duty. But if that person takes it on, that's additional work.
I think we'll have more
Permanent-
time to have more
permanent thing. It's a
discussion.
permanent
honestly,
thing, yeah.
To be honest.
Hi, Jessica.
And yeah,
Thank you for coming.
welcome. I do
Very
think
pleasure.
I'd like to just make sure we do some more discussion after we get information. And I will go back and review last meeting we had because I really misunderstood a bit of what was said. So I'll roll with that and see how I do. Okay,
All right,
got it.
well, we're ready for just a
Great, I didn't wanna rush anybody. Thank you. I did prepare a handout for reference.
Perfect.
I think it's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't quite track with what I'll be talking about, but might be helpful reference for. Probably later. Good to see you. Jim and Aurora. Yeah. So thank you, everybody. John, if I understand, the request was to talk a bit about my duties.
Yes.
Okay,
And so we're kind of familiar with the statutory, structure.
sure.
What we're kind of interested in is, what you do on a, day-to-day basis and.
Great.
So,
Great. And I also saw were interested as well on what the kind of how the deputy clerk or other staff support.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, well, I just want to thank you all for your work as commissioners. As you know, setting up the compensation commission was one of the good governance initiatives I spearheaded in 2021. So it's so nice to see it at work and happening, no matter what happens. I appreciate it. I would just say by way of background, I have served as the Scio Township Clerk since I was appointed on June 1st, 2019. Prior to that, I worked for about 20 years in local government, mostly in housing and criminal justice issues. And along the way, also have my master in public policy. So my entire career has been in local government. My work here as Township Clerk, it's primarily here at Township Hall. I'm not in the community too often, but working from home, evenings, weekends. I regularly work about 45 to 60 hours a week. This has been really my downtime since the election, which has been nice. During election season, it's extremely demanding. When it's going smoothly, my days are about 10 hours long. With early voting, it becomes about a constant kind of, I'd say there's about a 40-day period where working about every day there. In any case, I don't know that hours are so important, but I did want to put it out there that I am more than full-time and have been since I started the job. In terms of staff that support, the last page of the handout, I did just share a list of the staff that support me compared with the other 3 large townships in the 3 largest townships in Washtenaw County. I also just want to apologize. I'm feeling a little fuzzy because I had a migraine this morning. So if I seem less enthusiastic than normal, it's just feeling a little stunted. So apologies.
Sorry to hear that.
Oh, that's okay. You all, apologies. So in terms of supporting me, I have the deputy clerk, the finance director, who is currently via contract, Plant Moran, our finance manager, Rebecca Maudie, finance assistant, Belisha King, who's really primarily utility billing. But the finance director and 2 supporting finance staff are the positions we're really trying to flesh out and build up here. Along with the deputy clerk, who of course is statutorily required under MCL 41.69. Finally, Scio Township did more maturing and created a full-time deputy clerk position last year, a full-time deputy treasurer position just 2 years ago. So getting us a little more in line with the norms of every other township, which is fantastic. So the job of township clerk, I see it as really kind of 4 roles. The smallest role is that I'm a member of the Board of Trustees. It's the most visible, but it's probably the part that I spend the least time on. I'm a policymaker, 1 of 7 votes, just as everyone else is. I'm extremely productive member of the board. I've introduced and gotten past probably more actions, actually, not probably, more actions than any other member I've yet served with. I'm very proud that we are doing more work at the board table. When I got here, most of the decision-making happened behind closed doors, sometimes improperly. So many more decisions are in public than used to be in public here in Scio Township. But the primary work of the township clerk isn't at meetings. I'd say this job, what I like about it, it's complex, it's demanding, it's multifaceted. In any township, even a small township that maybe doesn't have any, full-time staff, the clerk will be the first one to start becoming paid, to have regular office hours, to become full-time. So even in the smallest of townships, you'll see the clerk having the most hours, the treasurer being available for tax time, and everybody else kind of as needed. In a larger township such as Scio, I really believe it helps the community if you have somebody in the job who's got significant experience in public service, local government, because so much of it is government administration. That's a lot of the job of the clerk. I think having some experience and training in that area helps one do it well. The clerk really interfaces with all parts of the operations. I sign paychecks, I sign the 941s, everything, the daily operation, keeper of the keys. And because of that, we've had the opportunity to really kind of build capacity, procedures, policies, kind of across the board. the three main areas, is really about kind of the overall integrity and functioning of our basic democratic practices. So it's elections, it's accounting, and keeping of the records. So each of these duties are assigned to the clerk because I'm independent official, not under the board, independent from the supervisor or the treasurer. The idea is that the clerk is somebody who's free from undue influence so that the people have somebody that they can come to for an independent accounting of our funds, an independent reporting of the returns of an election, and a true and certified copy of any public records or proceedings that happen. So I would say 95% of my duties are prescribed by statute. Some by ordinance, but they're all ones that kind of fit in, you know, peddlers permits, receiving applications and things. Additional duties assigned by the board. There's a FOIA coordinator, but that naturally, usually comes along with the clerk. It used to be part of my job. It was taken away for a while with the, dysfunction. But most are all statutory. I would also, please, anything.
95% of your duties are what's listed in the statute, is what you're saying. I just want to be careful.
Yeah, that's how I see it. Yeah, I mean, there's some in the ordinance, right? But they all kind of follow the statute. I mean, being the FOIA coordinator, it's a thing, but
But isn't that a additional duty? that
sure,
Is
it is.
somewhat time consuming and
The board could assign anyone FOIA coordinator, and it is. I do rely on the deputy clerk to support me in that, for sure. Oh, yeah, I mean, but that's why it's so important for the clerk to have staff to assist. Any clerk in a township relative to our size who does the job alone. Period. That's just, like, maybe a treasurer could get away with it, probably not. But clerks always have.
by statute. Yeah.
By statute, a deputy clerk, but by practical reality, I'm personally responsible for, administering an election. I'm personally responsible for making every enter into our accounting records, for taking every set of minutes. That's practically impossible for a single person. So. So with elections administration, I just suggest, please interrupt me, redirect me, ask questions as we go. My responsibilities for elections are set forth in MCL 41 and MCL 168. MCL 41 sets forth all the township officials' duties. MCL 168 is the election code. And certainly the Constitution guides a lot of this. Michigan elections are very decentralized, so that there's a lot of responsibility on your local clerk, your township clerk or your city clerk. Those are the people who carry out the 1,400 different people who carry out each little election. The county clerks have a statutory role. The Secretary of State has a statutory role, but unlike other states, it's decentralized all the way down to little old me, who's responsible for administering every election here in Scio. I'm responsible for maintaining the voter rolls for Scio. Day to day, what this looks like is Barb, my deputy, keeps up the voter rolls. So there's daily updates to the voter rolls. Certainly throughout the year, we maintain the equipment according to a schedule. We just completed an audit. We were randomly selected by the state, and we completed an audit of one of our precincts from November 2024 and did a hand recount of that. So my one thing I want to say is elections really are year round. There's a steady bit of work, and it is primarily Deputy Clerk Barb Kaleja who assists me with that kind of day-to-day management.
How did we do?
It was perfect.
I didn't doubt. I just wanted to hear.
It was, yes, the count came out perfectly. Yes. And there's really been three major drivers of township clerks. When you read about the studies from the MAMC or others about township clerks quitting and quitting and quitting, which has been happening the last 2 to 4 years, it's because of harassment and intimidation through elections. It's just straight up. I mean, we get trained now on mental health. We get trained on cybersecurity. The entire job has changed. I have a great partnership with the Washtenaw Sheriff's Office. I've had to use them. I've had to do interventions, even this last election. And so the job has changed in terms of the personal security concerns that people have administering elections. That's a reality. Also, elections have gotten to be much more work because of some of the very good governance reforms we've made in Michigan. A 2018 constitutional amendment and a 2022 constitutional amendment gave us no reason absentee voting, same day registration, 9 days of early voting. These are huge changes administratively for a clerk's office. I think it creates a much better experience for voters, and also it creates more days of work for a clerk, and that's a good thing. I'm really glad to be able to do that because we get better turnout. I've now administered 10 elections for Scio Township since being clerk. Big or small, there's, a certain amount of work involved in every election, certainly for the big ones, as well as through the pandemic, the pre-vaccine pandemic in particular. Certainly we got very creative about how to make sure we could safely get voters their ballots appropriately. Scio has 15,500 voters. We regularly stay in touch with our voters through the daily updates from the Secretary of State and others. And I'd also say the ongoing management of the equipment. There's more work in that than you may know. There's regular software updates, working with our election vendor, and coming through and doing regular maintenance of those. That all happens behind the scenes here in the secure space we have here for elections. So I would say, I really rely on our deputy clerk, Barb Kaleja. We are so fortunate to have her, the former clerk of Webster Township. She has a ton of experience and knows how to do everything in a smaller place like Webster Township, where they have even less staff. She did all of the accounting, all of the elections, and everything single-handedly. So we're very fortunate to have her expertise. In the area of financial accounting, that's guided by MCL 41, specifically 41.65, as well as guided by MCL 141, the Uniform Budgeting and Accounting Act. The Uniform Budgeting and Accounting Act really just provides guidance to all local units, townships, cities, counties, school districts on how you're supposed to do accounting and budgeting in the state of Michigan as a local unit. It's pretty broad, but it's got important guidelines such as a uniform chart of accounts, audit requirements, a lot of requirements in there. And I've been very proud that I've been able to spearhead getting in compliance with a lot of these. They were sort of dangling audit findings, or some of them were even unreported things that were going on. There's a history of a lot of bad practices here, and we've been cleaning them up and cleaning them up and cleaning them up. A lot of that is related to my responsibilities under the Uniform Budgeting and Accounting Act. I'm responsible for keeping the books a certain way. A uniform chart of accounts is referenced a lot in there. There's a very particular way that the accounting is supposed to happen. And so over the last few years, we've really taken some good steps to get in compliance with that. We've developed policies, and this is something Barb has helped me with, and procedures. And really Rebecca, our finance manager, and our finance director, Plant Moran, and Belisha, they carry out, I'd say 90% of the finance work that we do here. So accounts payable, payroll, accounts receivable, all of the month-end reporting, the quarterly 941s. I sign off and review all of the filings that Rebecca prepares. In terms of, as Jim has counseled me, several times, when we go to sign checks here, it's dual signature, and I sign first, kind of stating, this is properly authorized. This is a legal, properly authorized expense of the township. And then Ryan, our treasurer, signs it, says, yes, this money should be dispersed. So that's sort of the procedure. I'm responsible for making sure everything's duly authorized. He's responsible for dispersing the funds. He's responsible for receiving the funds. I'm responsible for booking that revenue. So that's one thing that I'm proud we've implemented, a cash handling and receipting policy recently. And we have that segregation of duty in place for the first time, to my knowledge, here in Scio, where we have the treasurer and his deputy receipting in, and then Barb and I have a step where we journalize, where we book the revenue, give a second set of eyes, make sure it's getting booked properly. The clerk is really, ideally would be a CPA with 15 years of experience, quite honestly. So for your future clerk candidate in some future, but quite honestly, it's an incredible responsibility, and that's why so many clerks' offices have fully developed finance departments under them. If you look at Ipsy and Pittsfield, certainly that's the direction I hope Scio will go. We'll have a finance director and 2 supporting finance staff under them to carry out all of our responsibilities. So in terms of what it looks like, I spend a lot of time coming up with protocols, reworking processes, certainly writing policies that are mandated to come before the board. All of our financial policies I drafted or had drafted for the township and got them adopted. I have a set of about 7 more policies that Maynard Casterison has recommended. We're going to be working through the board over the next year or so. I'm so pleased to be working with our treasurer, Ryan Yapel, who is just fully committed to cleaning up these processes. And I feel a great sense of relief that the voters voted in a board majority who want good governance when it comes to our public funds. I'm responsible for staffing the audit and all of the associated reporting to the state. And all of the reports that we have, that we don't have but should have, are my responsibility. Our deputy clerk is kind of backup to the finance team, but really Rebecca Maudie, finance manager, does the lion's share of the work. Felicia King does the utility billing and does some backup for year-end reporting. And as you know, we have Plant Moran as our finance director, but we're moving quickly to post and recruit for a full-time finance director who I would expect would do much more of the planning and projections, the utility rate studies, the 5-year forecast, all of the good, and do a comprehensive audit. We do the minimum audit required, but I'd really like to see us get to a comprehensive audit as some other jurisdictions do.
And Scio Township had a finance manager previously?
Finance director.
I'm sorry, finance director, yeah.
In name, yes, Sandy Egler was the finance director. I would say what I, and part of the, fight I fought, was bringing in a CPA. So what I would say is we have not had sufficient qualified finance staff in Scio Township. We had, kind of outgrown, the capacity of the staff that we had. And when I, brought in a CPA for the first time in 2019 and started identifying some of the practices, I'm also very proud we were reconciling bank statements in BSNA. All of these very basic things So I raise these examples because when I walked in here in 2019, I just can't overstate how jaw-dropping it was. Okay. Records. I'm responsible for the records, which is kind of fascinating. And I would just say in terms of access to information, maintaining much of the content on the website, the code of ordinances, taking minutes. We've proposed a digital records initiative, which will help the township greatly in many ways. I don't want to speak too much more, but I would say that this is another area where the deputy helps a lot. We have required postings and notices, synopses and minutes, resolutions, and there's a lot of record keeping and record sharing. We always want to do a better job, but I'm very proud of how far we've come so far.
Jessica, your handout is really helpful. I appreciate it greatly. Gives a lot of detail and information that'll be helpful for us.
Great.
And certainly I'm going to be one of the first to say the word clerk has got to be about as antique as we can come up with, because
Yes.
it does not describe the position of what you're covering and doing. And it's unfortunate because many people don't have the opportunity or take the time to listen and hear the detailed work. So I think that was really helpful. I appreciated it. I did have one question. If you were basically going to say one major thing that bringing in the finance director would do, what would that, what area would that, I don't want to say words like the burden of, but you're spread real thin, you have got plenty on your plate. What part would that, would go that area? If you could just,
My responsibilities in finance would become more about kind of oversight and strategic direction, and just the organization would be moved farther. I don't know about my plate, but we would be doing planning and projection and avoiding mistakes and gaps and oversights.
and with the future growing pattern that Scio is showing.
Yeah.
We are obviously going to soon be moving up the ladder, and so preparing ahead is part of your recommendation also for the future.
Absolutely, because I don't think we've ever done when I look back at some old 5-year forecast, financial forecast we did, it's, we've had to contract out every higher level financial analysis to a consultant. And we really should have that expertise in-house here.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Yes. I have one. Actually, I had a couple, but you answered the first one, which was how you saw the role of the clerk evolve since you started in 2019. In your summary there, you hit on the two big areas, elections and finance, the evolution of those roles. So great. So what I want to ask now is sort of corollary is for your current duties, which ones would you say take up the majority of your time and which one takes up the majority of your effort? And they can be two different answers.
I'd say the majority of my effort is finance, and the time kind of records and elections, but records takes a lot of time. And I would say in the past, and I know, I've always kind of keep the history of, prior. When you ask about the job of the township clerk evolving, I would maintain the job of I'd say this respectfully, but quite honestly, that the job of the township clerk here hasn't evolved. I haven't changed the job of the township clerk from what prior clerks did. I am doing the job of township clerk much more consistently with the way that every other township clerk does usually her job. And in terms of Pittsfield, in terms of Ipsy, in terms of all these other clerks, certainly the whole role. And when I, came to the job, I was very clear I was not going to take on statutory responsibility for something like finance and not have any, operational control over, sometimes responsible for. So I think that that's why there was this kind of realignment and understanding that there was this function that wasn't being fully carried out here in Scio.
Okay. I think that's it. Thank you so much for joining us for a few minutes.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thanks for the handout. Yep.
Presentation.
Okay, thank you.
About 5 minutes. Hey, Ryan walks in, treasurer.
Hello, everyone. How are you?
Hey, how are you doing?
Busy season, I guess, right?
It's been pretty busy today, but we're seeing a little ebb and flow. I bet it'll pick up again here. Probably in the last like 30-45 minutes or so of the day, but that's okay. We had about 6,805 parcels to pay tax, and as of a little bit ago, 6,475 had paid. So
That's a good thing, right?
we had about 150, 180 of that paid late in the last 2 weeks of the year. So there'll be a late fee if people don't pay by 4 o'clock today, but a few people every year do go over to the county just because either somebody has passed away, they don't know the bill's owed. Things happen.
All right, well, appreciate you joining us this afternoon. We kind of know the statutory responsibilities from the Michigan Township Association. Kind of what we're interested in, well, obviously a little bit about that, but also about things that you're doing beyond just the statutory. And once you've kind of discussed that, we're also curious to know what kind of responsibilities you've been able to delegate to your deputy treasurer and how that process is going. So
Like you guys, I'm sure you've reviewed, I haven't watched your most recent couple of meetings. I think I watched one of the first ones, the recording of it, but my job is several different things. I interact with a couple different areas of the township. I do deal with taxes, so right now is one of our busier times of the year. We also have a summer tax collection that starts in July, ends in September. We have personal property tax returns. There's about 275 of those that owe tax in the township. There's 1,000 total, but most of those people are people that have a small amount of property in their business, maybe desks, chairs, a couple of computers. They don't owe us tax because of that. They're below a minimum threshold. So I prepare that tax bill twice a year. I also work with the assessor's office to get the assessing rolls so that we know what millage rates to apply to the assessing rolls. Once we prepare those tax bills, that process takes some time because of different things that have come up. We then work with a mailing company, Print Tech here in Scio Township, to mail those bills out to people that don't have their taxes paid by their mortgage company. A couple of other things that I statutorily do, I take in all funds that come into the township, so that biggest part of that is taxes, water and sewer utility bills, miscellaneous things that come up, fire alarm fees that we collect from fire inspections as well as false alarms. I also collect rental payments for some of the things that we rent, such as our water tower to a cell phone company for cell phone service. I have various other small receipts that come in, probably about a couple hundred a year, depending on what they are. I then deposit all those funds with our banks. We currently have about 27 checking accounts. I'm going to be working on whittling that number down here the next couple of months to get to a smaller, more manageable number.
What's your turn?
I think we can get to 5.
I like that.
and just for reference, that was the previous treasurer that had.
Correct. Yeah. Statutorily wise, I'm also responsible for investing funds. So we have checking accounts and savings accounts where we keep money that we need for more day-to-day purposes, payroll, paying our light bill, some of the other bills that come in. But we also have funds that we set aside for more long-term projects, things like working on some of the water and sewer infrastructure that might not happen for a couple of years or longer. Or, for example, the Land Preservation Commission has a dedicated millage that funds it. They do purchase property, but some years they purchase more than others, and they might not use all of the millage funds that come in. And they might say, hey, we're only going to spend half of what we received this year. Can you invest the rest? We plan to spend it next year or 3 years from now. So we work with a number of investment providers, Michigan Class, which has a dedicated set of funds available to municipalities, and also Comerica Bank has a number of bonds that we can invest in under Public Act 20. Really, my role is to manage the money as it comes in, working with the clerk who is responsible for finance. So the books actually sit with her, but I work on bringing all that money in, receipting it, and keeping track of it for a statutory responsibility. I know you asked a question about what the deputy treasurer does. Joelle assists me with receiving those payments. Like I said, there's 6,800 tax bills for winter and summer, approximately 7,100 with personal property tax, so 14,000 total receipts for that a year. We have 2,700 roughly water and sewer customers. We bill them quarterly, but in cycles. So not all of those customers are due every month. That would be a bit much. So that's an additional approximately 10,200 receipts per year. And then another, you would say about 200-300 miscellaneous receipts that come in throughout the year for other things that we receipted. Joelle also and I both work the counter quite a bit. That's something that wasn't super common here in the past. So most of the time when anyone comes in to pay a bill, it's either Fran, our planning coordinator, Joelle, or I who are taking in those payments. Christy is helping, but she's probably receipted, my guess is less than 300 payments so far in the last 3 months. The other thing that we're really working on is communicating with residents and ratepayers, especially for water and sewer. We get a lot of folks that have questions about our online system. So we'll help people that have error messages that come up or have issues where their account might not be able to be logged into for a technical reason. We work with a lot of folks that ask about where their payment is for their water or sewer service or for their tax payment. A lot of people have been calling the last couple of days because they've used online bill pay or dropped their payment off with our Dropbox, and they just want to make sure that they receive their payment and it's not lost or misplaced. We've probably answered 450 to 500 phone calls the last 3 months by our estimate when we counted earlier. We return voicemails when we're either at the counter or assisting other customers. We also work a lot with emails. There's a number of people that email us very similar questions. The biggest thing we work with is also helping people who aren't necessarily treasury customers, we'll call them, but people that come and just have a question. We have questions about who's responsible for plowing different parts of the township, sidewalks and such. We've had people come in and ask where radon kits are, which is at the county building, not here at Scio Township. But I've had a number of those. We really serve as, in addition to what our job, our core treasury duties are, being that welcoming face here at Scio Township.
And so how does your collection of utility payments, as an example, how does that integrate with the utilities department?
So the utilities department works to prepare the bills, so they either will automatically read the bills if they're on one of the newer meter systems. If they're on an older meter, the utilities technicians will go out into the field and actually do a manual read at the meter. It's one of the reasons the township has been working to replace those meters over the next several years, so we can access those meters remotely over the cellular network and receive information in real time to pull that into our software. It also lets residents know that if we see abnormal usage, if you only use 2 or 3 units normally during a billing cycle, and we see that you've used 7 or 10, there's notifications that can go out and warn you that say, we've detected abnormal usage. Are you sure this is really going on? Or could there be a leak or a broken pipe if you're out of town, for example, or not home for an extended period of time? That way we could have someone go deal with the situation. The utility department creates that bill. Once the bill is created, it's either mailed out to the customer or sent to them through email. Some customers choose to pay online through a third-party company. Those payments we simply bring into the software and receipt. That process is pretty fast. I would say even for 50 or 100 payments at a time, it takes us less than 10 minutes to do that. But anyone that comes into the counter, they either have to have their slip already printed, which many people do, or we have to print that slip for them, scan it in, validate, make sure that their check is prepared correctly or that they have cash. Once we do that, we then bundle everything for the day, go back, print off a deposit report the next morning, verify all of our sums add up and that we're balanced, and then deposit those checks or cash into the bank. Utilities does not bring in any cash here simply because of where they are in the building, in addition to the fact that right now, the only 4 people that the board has authorized based off of a resolution that Jessica, the clerk, and I worked on in January to handle cash are Christy, Fran, Joelle, my deputy treasurer, and myself. Just to also prevent anyone else in the office from having cash or not knowing what to do and stepping into a situation where they haven't been fully trained or aren't sure of how the system works.
Ryan, can you give us a little bit of background on your personal background? I mean,
Sure, for those of you that don't know who I am, so I've lived in Scio Township since April of 2023. I've been coming to meetings here since I want to say it was spring of 2021. I own a property here in Scio Township in addition to my home at the end of Baker and Jackson Road, where the Baker Road dead ends into Jackson. You have to turn left or right. I own a company called EWF Solutions. We purchased a 5-acre parcel of land where we built a warehouse for my business. I'm still involved in my business. I just felt called and compelled to come here after sitting through some of the meetings and seeing some of the things that were going on in Scio Township. I have a bachelor's of business administration from Northwood University up in Midland. I own my business now for 11 years. We're a master distributor for a lot of national food companies. We work with a lot of candy companies, which is ironic because Valentine's Day today. Ghirardelli Chocolate, Hershey, Mars Wrigley, probably every candy company you've ever heard of. Mostly online is where we sell. I was building that building, went through the planning and zoning process here. I went through not only a conditional use, a rezoning, and then finally a site plan approval process. So I got the experience working with the planning commission and then ultimately serving on the planning commission. But I saw that our current treasurer had been here for a very long time, very nice person. But I saw there was an opportunity to bring some technology and modernization into the organization, and that we could make things more efficient for residents and more efficient for staff to work with a lot of the systems that we have and ultimately provide better service to the residents. Just stuff that I had experience with. We have now received a remote deposit machine here in the township hall, so we don't have to take checks to the bank. We're going to be implementing that here very soon, probably starting next week. We can also have deposits come into the account faster because they'll post as long as they're posted by 5 o'clock the same day. We're going to be working with the bank to launch an automatic payment system. So that way folks don't have to sign up through a third party. We can handle that hopefully in-house. So I'm going to be working on that with the hope to bring it to the board and have that approved before the summer tax season. So.
Well, aside from the proceedings here, thank you for that increase in use of technology to improve the speed, reduce the amount of labor in managing these payments.
Yes, because right now we're a very paper-driven process to do transfers here. One of the things I've learned in my first 3 months here, not really a statutory duty, but we do transfers on paper. So many of you, I'm sure if you have a checking and savings account, you can go online or use an application on your phone and just say, I want to move $500 from account to account. That is an option for us, but the way our process works is paper driven. We fill out a debit and credit sheet, have to photocopy it, enter it into our cash receiving system, and then take it to the bank for the bank to process and provide a receipt. So there's an opportunity to speed things up, while still having checks and balances, of course.
Completely aside from our process, of what we're doing here. I'd like to ask though, I mean, because I think this is important. In your role, you've had about 3 months of probably pretty hard hours implementing change is hard. And especially when you're validating technical processes because you don't want to get it wrong ever. So in terms of what it takes to do your job, how many hours a week on average, I would imagine that it's pretty high.
So I do think it's more than a 40-hour a week job. As it is, the responsibility of what the job is. Right now, for example, we've collected over $26 million for this tax season. Balancing and making sure that we're actually settling out, not only to our accounts, but we're not over or underpaying the city of Ann Arbor for the school district, Washington County, the state of Michigan, as well as the DDA, which is a subcomponent unit of ours, and all of our internal funds is crucial. The software system here is robust, but there is still a lot of manual work that has to be done because of some unique situations with different parcels and different overlays that have happened. There's a parcel in the township that is in the Downtown Development Authority, but it's also got a commercial rehabilitation credit and a lot of other things that make it a complex tax situation. So figuring out the exact capture that parcel gives the Downtown Development Authority and the part that goes to Scio Township, and that in itself has been a 20 or 30-hour project so far. I'm working 45 to 50 hours a week, even on weeks where there are not board meetings. If I know some of you have been to board meetings or have heard that they can stretch later into the evening.
Really?
Yeah, but that I've actually kept track of my time. That's something I've done since I own my own company. The IRS can audit you for reasonable compensation. So if I can prove what I'm doing and the hours I'm working, I've done that. I've continued to just do it under a different code here while I've been doing work here. Cause I want to, number one, it's fair to myself to know what I'm doing and when I'm doing it. It also gives me a good grasp of what needs to be improved upon. Joel's a great help. I mean, their deputy treasurer is a strong person who has almost 4 years of experience coming from Ypsilanti Township. He's able to help me balance daily deposits. He's able to help customers with inquiries. He's able to really do a lot of what I do. But then there comes the more strategic questions that have to work with other members of the board, other stakeholders here in the township, as well as some of the other aspects of the job that just have a lot more minutia and just get quite bogged down when you have somebody who's like Joelle, who's up at the counter assisting a lot of the customers, a lot of the people walking in. Sometimes you need that dedicated time from treasurer to focus on a task so that way we get to an ultimate decision.
And I know, I fully, so the clerk came in and said something similar, 45 to 60 hours. What I really wanted to dig at is you're doing a lot of improvements. You're making a lot of improvements in technology, efficiency, et cetera. Those will alleviate the work of others that may be able to take on some of the work. What I'm asking is long-term, since we're supposed to be looking at this April of 26, right? So in the long term, do you see those hours coming back to a more reasonable set once those improvements and
I think they can. I definitely think they can improve over time. I don't know. Admittedly, I know what I know now after 90 days, and I'll probably know more when you guys meet next. That's in a year or 2 years. I forget the cycle, but I believe that there will be efficiency and time improvements on it. I also think there is seasonality, just like there's seasonality with the clerk's job in elections. You know, the week leading up to an election, probably the week of the election, yeah, you're working 60, 80 hours. And then 2 weeks after the election, you can take a little bit of a breather and you can probably take a day or two off and, or go, or leave and take a half day. But I think the ultimate responsibility and the ultimate role is still going to be somewhere very close to the 40-hour mark, if not over, simply because of the workload. It's fascinating that so much of the minutia of the accounts, it's not really a difficult job, but because of the complexity of process, that's what makes, to your point, it makes it take a lot longer.
I'd like to follow up on Commissioner Greenberg's question. This is a question I also asked Clerk Flintoff. Of the duties you have personally, which would you consider take the most time of your time? And which one would take most of your effort?
Sure. I think the thing that takes the most of my time specifically is probably the strategic improvements piece, which isn't codified in statute, right? But it's the process of actually getting the receipts in and the process of managing that cash that comes over the counter. Cash has complexity, but it's not that hard. The amount of checks we get and the amount of deciphering and time we spend with the paper process we have here is immense. It takes sometimes several hours to balance the prior day, simply because if we have 300 or 400 checks, by the time you run our cash register tape, scan all of the checks in, which includes the drop box, the counter, the mail. If someone writes a check and you misread it, even by 50 cents, you then have to hunt and find it. That's been one of the things that's been the most frustrating from a time standpoint. And one of the things I'm looking for technology, we're never gonna get completely away from cash and checks, but whatever we can do to allow people either at a reasonable price or hopefully maybe even free to utilize technology and have payment that makes it easier on us and easier on the resident, I'm all for. That's what that kept having asked of me probably 15 times this week so far. It's been just perplexing.
Effort wise then.
Effort wise, it's a good question. I think effort wise, I spend the most time on listening to the resident concerns or questions. I probably have spent in the last couple, at least the last couple of weeks, and that's what I'm basing it off of. I'm trying to think back further. A lot of times, questions that aren't easily answered by one of the other members, either the deputy treasurer or our planning coordinator, end up coming to me. I've had several people family members that are paying each other's property taxes, which gets really confusing really fast when one person doesn't know what the other person is doing. I've spent multiple hours unwinding some of those situations. I've also spent multiple hours with people who have paid online through their bank and their check just doesn't arrive. And unfortunately, it's completely out of my control. I can tell them to call the bank. I can encourage them to drop it off in person. But there's only so much we can do. Effort wise, a lot. And I've also had several residents. I had one resident contact me who had a poverty exemption. She had her taxes escrowed. So the escrow company had paid us. In prior year, the township had refunded her directly. The best practice for a lot of reasons is that when an escrow company pays us somebody's taxes and there's an overpayment, it goes back to the escrow company, and then the escrow company works directly with that person to refund them any overpayment. We don't want to send the overpayment directly to the resident because the escrow company still has some matter that needs to be managed with that. And truthfully, it was paid by someone else. It should go back to whoever was the payer of the payment. That particular resident and I worked together for several hours. to get through to her issue and her concern, and I had explained how I realized it was done differently in the past, but this is the best practice, and this is the way we have to handle it going forward. Simply because it's the right thing to do. A lot of those phone calls, some of them are quick, some of it's just, hey, did you get this? Yep, okay, have a good one. Some of this stuff is like hours and hours of research to get to the bottom of why did this happen? Why isn't it working? And what's broke? Some of that will be fixed by technology. Some of that's going to exist no matter what because of the human element of just what comes up. Some people pay each other's taxes. I don't know why. It's none of my business, but some of this will happen no matter the technology. Some of it will be helped by process improvement.
But it's 80-20. If you can
Yeah.
eliminate the vast majority of it, those last few don't take nearly as long because there are only a few. Thank you. I really appreciate the fact that you are looking at the position through the eyes of automation and technology.
Any other questions?
I would just like to say thank you and
Yeah.
bring up the fact that I've gone to 3 different meetings. One was some planning for the board and whatnot. And I recognize that you quite frequently reference that you relate to the residents, that you listen to the residents. And you made I made a note of it because I was impressed. You're the welcoming face to the township. And that may not seem like anything important, but I believe in this township that is a real plus. And I've seen you put that in different ways of your position.
Thank you.
And I want to recognize that and say thank you because it is important. And it is very apparent, at least what I have seen. So thank you, Ryan.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I've had multiple residents say how nice it is just to see somebody with a smile when they walk in. I didn't walk in a whole lot previously before I was in the role. I was here last September when taxes were due. It was quite busy. I observed that for about an hour and a half while I was here just watching, but I've received that compliment a couple of times, so I appreciate that. It means a lot.
Okay, I have one last question. What is a jeopardy assessment? That is a term that's in our, it says the treasurer is responsible for jeopardy assessments and collecting property tax. And
Here's my guess without looking it up
That's okay.
in front of me. So I will tell you like a little bit of process. So today is the due date here, about an hour, 55 minutes. So anything that isn't paid by the end of today, people still have an opportunity to pay here at the township until the end of February. At the end of the day, last day of February, those taxes are final. The roll transfers to the Washtenaw County Treasurer. They are responsible. If somebody comes in here March 1st or 2nd, whichever is the first business day, and wants to pay, I say you have to go downtown to the county treasurer's office. You can pay online, you can call them, but you cannot pay here anymore. I do not have the legal authority by state law to take the funds. That roll, once they get the funds, they would remit any portion they owe to us here at Scio Township. We also do get delinquent personal property tax from time to time. I know the previous treasurer only had 2 times in her history where she wasn't able to work out a payment arrangement or a situation. Delinquent personal property tax is collected at the local level and then distributed. It's the reverse. It's very weird. Just sort of the difference in the law and the minutia of it. But yeah, I have not heard that term yet, and I would have to look into it. So something to learn. There's always something to learn.
all right, well, thank you so much for joining us this
Thank you,
afternoon.
commissioners. You guys have a wonderful weekend, all right?
Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Full disclosure, I ran against Ryan in the election as a write-in, and to my ultimate pride, and I'm just gonna brag here, I got 15 votes.
There you go. You guys have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Yeah, let's adjourn for 5 minutes and, okay, super. So we can't talk business here for 5 minutes.
Okay.
When does the recording available to review?
of the,
When will this recording be?
actually, I don't know when this recording gets uploaded. I know if Rob does it, he tries to do it like the next day. But I don't know about the. So, no official word.
Since today's Friday, and Monday's a holiday. Sure, it'll be Tuesday.
I'll probably be before next Friday, so I can cross-check it with my notes.
Yeah, I think I read it or listened on a Sunday night. Or it might have been Monday night.
He went yesterday in the gym. The trainer gave me some interesting exercises. Hello.
For you. Is there a break? Sent you.
Yes.
Board of Commissioners solutions.
Oh, great, because I can't get. Hey, be right back. There is a break, right? Yes. Yeah, okay.
Find something. Asked a question of Ryan. They said, we're looking for 5.
Oh, I'm still early.
You're welcome, you're welcome. We're all friends.
Actually, no, you're about in the right time, right spot, so.
You're actually right.
Did we?
I guess that's still early. Well, I guess I am still early.
We got over 5.
Yes, we have.
Oh, okay, all right.
What was the question? Oh.
1 second, we just took a brief pause and
I'll take a nap.
No. All right, hello.
Hi, welcome.
Supervisor Carrie. So we're interested in a couple of things, just kind of, and we kind of know the statutory duties of supervisors. We're interested also in what you're doing beyond the statutory duties. And kind of what you do with your days and weeks and years but let's start with just
One other clarification, is there a deputy that work like the treasurer and
The treasurer and clerk must have a deputy. The supervisor may have a deputy.
do you?
No,
So the job duties that you're gonna be talking about today are the ones that you complete.
correct.
okay.
Well,
Handouts.
love it. You have a list of the statutory, which you're gonna get another list.
Okay.
But it's not just statutory. I did go through our ordinances and made a list, our policies. I made a copy of my calendar for the past couple of months, and that's not including what's coming up. And, you know what, Renee, I think I gave you the wrong. Let's see. I guess it doesn't matter. I mean, it's all the same. It's just it's prettier when it's colored.
I can take whatever.
Also, I've heard, so as you may have heard that we are hiring a potentially director of operations that's coming up, and I wanted to give you a copy of the job description.
Okay.
Is there anything in the job description that would replace any of your statutory duties?
No, not statutory. However, they do, one of the duties of the supervisor is the purchasing agent of the township. And that can also be delegated, and we have more than one, but it's the supervisor, and then in the director of operations, they do have that listed as the purchasing agent, which makes sense. The other thing that they do have under here is contracts, and the priority waste, the bane of my existence right now, is under the supervisor, and that is also in ordinance.
Very good.
We have DDA, Chief Executive Officer, written down here. Is that an additional duty?
That is the statutory duty if a township does have a downtown development authority.
So do you attend those meetings?
We've only had two, one regular and one special, and yes, I will be attending all of them.
Yeah, when you say we've only had two of the DDA meetings, what is the normal schedule for that? Or?
Well, so it's only two since I've taken office for me. Now, they've been having, I think it was incorporated in the late 80s.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah.
Confusion.
My fault. February and you took office in November, so it makes sense.
Yes, and they meet every other month, but we have decided there's a lot more for us to do, so we will be meeting once a month.
Okay.
Okay. Because I had an extra copy. Secretary to the Board of Review, so by statute, the assessing department is under the supervisor. Now, I am not qualified to be, I don't have the certifications to be an assessor. However, the department is still under the supervisor. So we work pretty closely together. Anything that I ask a lot of questions, I'm very serious about my role. Board of Review, the secretary, which I attended the December meeting, which was only like an hour, but we're heading into our season next month and March 10th, and that's, I think, 3 days there, July and then December. Let's see. Now, I did list under Scio Township Supervisor duties. By statute, you have that list already. I am the Washtenaw County Emergency Operations Plan. Not all townships participate in that depending on their population, but Scio Township does. And I have an important role if there's a declaration of a state of emergency, which last month, Chief Hood and I went over to the county building and had their tour and went over what would happen in different scenarios. So it was quite exciting and nerve-wracking at the same time. We take our safety for granted. But anyway, so that's another one. Scio Township ordinances, I went through, and any place that listed the supervisor's role. And some of these are also duplicate as what's already in statute, but they just for some reason thought it would be probably so people didn't have to go searching through statute, Michigan legislature, which can be daunting. Now, such as the supervisor is the legal agent of the township. That doesn't mean that they're a police officer or whatnot, but if there's a lawsuit, then I would be served on behalf of the township, but also like code enforcement, civil infractions, that type of thing. Then I also listed our Scio Township policies. I know there's a lot on the website, and some of them, you know, the policies are updated. But it can be quite, like if you went to the town, into the website and was looking, you pulled up a policy, you couldn't do a search for supervisor, you'd have to read through the whole thing. So I just went by as much as I could remember based on what I am doing now. So one of our policies is that the board members to be a liaison into another committee. And as you may know, I've been a member of Road Advisory Committee since 2021, and I have been the chair for, I think this is the third year, going on the third year. And I love being on the Road Advisory Committee. I have to say, because most people wouldn't, but special assessments under PA Public Act 188, I have studied that thing in and out. I probably can tell you right now what's in a certain section. But I think it's important for us to have special assessments here, or at least offer the special assessments or have that opportunity for residents if they do need an improvement. But I want to make sure that we follow it and there's avoid the issues that have been in the past. I listed the purchasing policy and procedures. The township is the township supervisor is the purchasing agent. Within the firefighter union contract, the supervisor has a role in the grievance process along with other, like trying to think of, I know there's more in there. I read through it a couple times, and I just went through the grievance process. So I was circling within the union contract, and then also it references the employee handbook, which I have read before, but going back and forth with that. So speaking of the employee handbook, I do sign payroll, time off, and overtime sheets for the assessing department, and I could do that for any other employee as well. And then it's up to the supervisor to grant leaves of absences, like short-term a medical leave. There's even, long-term leave of absence. It comes through the supervisor. I'm also a member of the Loch Alpine Sanitary Authority, and that was created back in the 50s. Jim, was it 50s or 60s? Well, I don't think any of us were, but you've read the bylaws and
I believe it's early to mid-50s.
Okay, yes, and with both Webster Township and Scio Township, we have to be on the board. There was a lot of issues back in the past. I don't know all the details, but I am a member, and I was also just elected as the chair. We meet once a quarter, but then it's not just the LASA board. We are also on the operations committee, which also meets once a quarter. let's see.
So the two different groups that have meetings for the Lock Alpine Sanitary Authority, LASA.
Yeah, so the operations committee, they go over the different projects that they're working on, Eagle violations, if there are any, or Eagle mandates that they follow. I'm really dumbing this down. There's a lot to it. So they go over that every quarter, and then whatever the operations committee is doing or needs, like an expenditure, that has to go to the board.
Okay, I didn't realize that. Thank you.
I also printed off a list of the classes I have taken since 2020. Since 2020, I got involved in the township in 2019 over garbage, which is ironic now, I oversee it. But so I went back and I take classes all the time. I'm always signing up. I'm always reading something. I want to make sure I do things properly by the law. And I'm learning a lot. It's really fascinating. So I put.
Well,
Yes.
jump in for questions.
Sure.
So we have traditionally defined the supervisor's role as part-time. And going back and forth on this over the years, I would like your current take on the situation. Based on your current duties, how part-time is part-time?
Well, according to the state, Michigan State University, part-time is 20 hours, and there is no way I could do all of this in 20 hours. In fact, if you look at my calendar that I have included, I have quite a few meetings, a lot of meetings, and just to go to those meetings would be left.
On average, how many hours a week do you spend in meetings?
Oh, well, a board meeting about 20. No, let's see.
Every other week you gotta.
Okay, let's say, yeah, it depends on the week, but probably should go by month instead, but a week, looking at, well, December was a light month because that was our first. So the first week in March, I have 8 meetings, 9 meetings
Wait, first week in
in
January?
March.
Oh, you mean
So I'm
scheduled
looking-
coming up?
Yeah, coming up. Sorry, I've got to change my glasses.
So about 8, 9 hours a week, Gus?
Yeah, not including board weeks, and then road advisory committee. A road advisory committee, we do 2 hours at the most.
Oh, we have a lot.
Roads once a month. Board 2 times regular, and we have lots of special meetings. And also speaking of, yes, wherever this part-time, and I went back in history looking for why is the supervisor part-time? And back in the day, when Scio was a small township, yeah, the supervisor was part-time, but so was the clerk and the treasurer. And then the trustees would do, their meetings or whatever. And then it grew. Supervisor, Clark, he was not only the supervisor, but he was also the manager. So that was full-time for him. But then I don't know about the clerk and treasurer at that time. And then when Jack Knowles was elected, he wanted to be part-time. In fact, that was one of his requirements for him to run for the supervisor. So they hired Bryce Kelly. And then after that, going back to 2022, the board has authorized positions that the supervisor is full-time. And I've copied all of that for you. And every year since, it has been listed as full-time. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm not clear. When
Yeah.
you say every year since it's been listed as full-time, where has it been listed as?
In the authorized positions sheet that, as the board has adopted.
Okay,
So it's authorized.
Is that the right one?
To be full-time.
Yeah. You know what? I gave you my copy. I'm sorry, I'm taking that back. 'Cause Oh, I didn't give you one. Okay, you were looking at something that.
So yeah, you saying that it's currently authorized to be a full-time position?
Yes, and it was authorized going back to 2022.
So since 2022, they budgeted, is what you're saying, for a supervisor, full-time supervisor?
Well, they approved the supervisor's position as full-time.
Full-time.
Yes,
Who's they?
the board.
Board of Trustees.
But it's not budgeted for a full-time position.
No,
And how does that get, how would we budget for the full-time position? Is that a board?
We don't have to worry about budget.
No, I know,
the-
but.
Yeah. and right now we're in the process of budget and the board has left the Board of Trustees off the budget for right now until the Compensation Commission is finished. And then also we have budgeted for the staff, but that is subject to change based on the Romberg Stover. We've hired them to do a salary and wage study. But they, I think, Aurora, you said that they would be ready, or somebody did the first quarter, first fiscal year or quarter in the.
They're also looking over job descriptions. Recommendations.
Now, were they? I can't remember, this has been a while because I think it was last fall, but are they looking at the salaries of the Board of Trustees as well? Or,
All they did is the salaries for comparison. For the study, not to, job descriptions or something. Statutorily, they have to use.
right,
So I guess let me follow up on the question then. So about how many hours a week do you think you are currently spending as in your supervisor role? And then assuming that we hire a full-time director of operations, does that change the number at all?
no. I will, no, my day. I begin work about at 8 o'clock, 8 to 10, and I work from home, so I can actually get some work done because as soon as I walk in this door, I am bombarded with questions, with people needing my help, with staff. And then I stay until 6, sometimes 8 at night, and I come in on the weekends as well. So just to make sure that I get, the road advisory committee, everything that I need to do. And part of that is that this is a new position. I have been studying for this or before since 2020. However, once you get in, and especially the township changes, the larger we become, the more responsibilities for all of us. So part of that is, getting into my role. I don't have staff. I mean, I have staff, like I could ask somebody to do something for me, but I don't have a deputy. And I don't plan on having a deputy unless I absolutely have to in the future. But with directors of operations, I don't really see them. They're supposed to be directing like the township itself, staff and contracts and whatnot.
They won't take over any of your statutory.
No. No, the only, as I mentioned before, when I read through, well, I was on the committee to create this, but such as I said, the purchasing agent, but that's also a dual role. And what was priority waste, the contract itself. Now, I don't know how that's going to change because we are looking into some solutions for that.
I have a question. We've been talking a lot about the growth of Scio Township moving forward. Do you see in just being involved previously as a trustee, now stepping into the position of the supervisor, that this growth that's beginning to happen here, we've heard from other officers, you know, the jobs are getting bigger, the jobs are more, there's more complexity to it. Do you see, even just in this beginning of your term, that there's a growth? And perhaps is that, you know, this would be like a job description. That's a detailed statutory, I understand, but do you feel that what you did the first week here compared to what you're doing now, do you see that as more demanding, more time, more attention? More people turning to you as having a title of supervisor?
Oh, yes. So, but as far as from the first week here, well, we went right into budget season and the budget is under the supervisor unless delegated to others, which, you know, but I am still involved, even though it's been delegated to a trustee to present. But, so it's hard to say because we're in budget season, like once that is set aside, not to say that budget ever ends because we have our quarterly amendments and whatnot, but it's important for not just me, but all of us to take, to keep an eye on that. There's yeah, that's gonna be hard to, yeah, once budget season.
Yeah.
And,
I was just thinking in terms of, as we grow as a township, do you anticipate, maybe that's a better way to phrase it. Do you anticipate that the supervisor role will grow with the size of the township also?
oh, absolutely. You know, I was just thinking of,
And the role, meaning the responsibilities statutory as well as, you know, you can take the single line, but can be done this way or can be done this way. So it will be interesting at a larger population, what that might entail, or what your thoughts were.
I've been thinking, like Pittsfield Township, it is a charter township. They have, oh, what is their population? I want to, over 30,000? Is it 38,000? Under 40, okay.
39 too.
So they have a full board, they have their clerk, treasurer, and supervisor. They're all working full-time, and they have a huge staff under them in each department, but then also in other departments. So I don't see any of our positions shrinking. Not at all, even the trustees. And as a trustee, I was a trustee for 2 years, and that was still 20 to 30 hours a week for me. And I am involved though. I want to make sure that I am representing, you know, the residents. And I'm also here for the staff. I have been involved with staff even before when I was a resident, just getting to know them and making sure that, you know, they felt acknowledged and appreciated. And it's the same here. We have to have a strong staff in order for us to serve as trustees. And then also, we're really here, number one, is for the residents, for our community.
Thank you.
And the supervisor is the face of the township. When you think of who am I going to call the township? Yes, we have staff to call, but I get a lot of phone calls. Just I want to speak with the supervisor. So, and once a week, you know, if I'm busy during the week and I have meetings, I make sure on Fridays before I leave that every single person that has emailed or called me that I contact them back. I think it's really important because again, the number one reason why we're here is because of our residents. And we should be serving them overall, and everything we do is to take care of our community.
One last question. Your education that you brought was helpful, just as a resident, I appreciate it. Is that normally, you know, do you have to work that around the time? Do you do it online? Do you have to go to a presentation? Does that take time, physical time, or is it done at home after you go home? How do you do some of these things?
Yeah,
There's a variety.
yes. When I was sick with COVID over the holidays, I took 6 classes because I figured that was a good use of my time.
Or online, but there's still.
Oh, yeah, I haven't,
You can take classes.
in person. No, trying to think,
Still takes time.
not yet. That we do, the Michigan Township Association, they have conferences. I would love to go, but Lansing, you know, it's the travel and it's maybe in next year when I'm more acclimated with my role and I can leave for a day or 3.
It sounds like you have a full workload here, but at the same time, you said you don't have a plan to hire or appoint a deputy supervisor. I guess why?
Well, looking at the job description and part of it is that if I hired, and which I could appoint, now I wouldn't be able to set their salary, but what would I give them? And I would have to look for somebody that would have the supervisory background of some way, some sort. And I just don't want, I mean, I could appoint my neighbor's dog, but I mean, you know, what's the point?
If you were half-time, it doesn't make sense to hire a full-time assistant.
Right, and they're not gonna, maybe there's somebody that would work 20 hours a week, but again. And and again, this is something down the road that I would have to look at. I wanna make sure that I know my position inside and out and what needs to be done before I even consider hiring somebody.
And just as a point of clarification, we've talked about it before, but if a director of operations is hired, they're gonna report to the board of trustees, correct?
They should, that's what we want, is for them to report to the whole board.
All right. Just
They should not be reporting to one or 2 people.
got it, yeah. Okay. A lot of information, good.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, another, now it does say moderate all board meetings, but one of the creating the agenda is under the supervisor and the office coordinator at this point. Well, and the director of operations. I'd have to read through it again, but, so that takes up a lot of time as well, every other week, creating the agenda. I am trying to make those meetings shorter by having special meetings and juggling and asking people if they could, whatever their item, is it really that important? Because we have a huge development that's coming in front of us. These long meetings are just not good for any of us. So I am really trying to hone that down and how can we make this work and get, everybody's input.
I have one point, in looking at the resolutions that were done in 2021 initially, the supervisor position, it was, noted in the resolution and voted on that the commission makes this determines the annual salary of the office of township supervisor to be 40,000 per year effective. The commission makes this determination, assuming the position of supervisor to be a part-time position. That was 2021. I found it interesting when we came to the resolution, which I was looking over this week, that was done in 2023. The resolution for supervisor makes no reference to this whole part-time, full-time thing, which I have an opinion on, but it is interesting that the resolution says one thing in 2021 and says nothing in 2023. We have documentation now of 2022. Would really seem like, hopefully with input from Jillian, what we've gotten, that we'll be able to start a conversation to figure out which path this township is on. Because I feel this is extremely difficult, and I realized that this was not affecting directly to you in 2023, but it is interesting hearing your position and what you've been doing and the amount of work. I just, from my business career, I find this kind of, and looking at the data we received from Aurora and the surrounding areas, it's interesting. So it's been very helpful to hear what your days are, what your training is, what you're doing, your meetings. Certainly I'll raise my hand. I know how long those meetings go. Anyway, so I do appreciate you taking the time, and I will be, maybe not tonight, but I will be looking more at the paperwork. I appreciate it very much. Thank you, Jillian.
Thank you.
And in the packet, Oh, yeah, I didn't hand, yeah, in the packet, you should have, Ypsilanti.
Yes, I have
Okay, that was
Yep,
included.
That's the one, yep.
Great.
This is the document you're
Yeah.
referring to?
Yes, there's Ypsilanti, Pittsfield, and Superior Townships. And Superior has 6,000 residents. Population of 6,000. Of course, Ypsilanti and Pittsfield are larger, and Scio is the third largest, I believe. Not including cities and villages. Okay, anything else?
No.
Everybody good?
Thank you much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Have a good day. Happy
Have a nice day.
Valentine's.
Interesting, I think all three of those presentations, it sounds silly, but I'm taking pride in my township,
Yes.
thinking that we have these people in those positions. Is that striking you like, as opposed
Yeah.
to some of the history?
Well,
I agree.
Resonating
What
with me.
struck me was, yeah, I felt the same way. And how do we keep these people? And,
Interesting.
and when one of them leaves, how do we
Replace them.
replace
Yeah,
them?
somebody on some caliber. Yeah.
Because am I reading the one that,
Jessica.
Jessica,
Yeah.
thank you, handed out if you're, have a graduate degree or something, what the salary?
I would say that the work you're
Should
doing,
be.
this may or may not apply, it's only supposed to be, but the work that's being done currently by the three of them. The common theme I heard through all of them is that we are improving processes to accomplish a number of goals. One is to decrease errors and make things more transparent. The other thing I heard is that they're spending time, a lot of time on strategic improvements in how we do things and knowing the little I do about the paperwork nightmares that go on in organizations, not just this one. That seems to me to be the type of gift that keeps on giving. If you can eliminate labor through automation and processes, then you can spend that time doing innovative new things rather than moving spreadsheets around. So I'm really encouraged about hearing that. And from that standpoint, yeah, I think we're very resonant in these little these folks. But I think the question is, what do we, now, I have a couple of questions that came up while we were listening, and perhaps Attorney Fink can answer them. If it's okay if I just throw them out there. One is, are we to determine the salary in April of 2026? Is that the idea, is that we should look at COLA increases and try to figure out what we tax? Like, our recommendations don't go into effect right away, is that correct?
They go into effect in April 1st, 2025,
Okay.
which was one of the reasons why the 2023 commission set the first date in February of this year, so that there would be some immediate correlation between the work of the commission and the effective date, because what the statute says is the determinations take effect with the next fiscal year. And the next fiscal year for Scio Township starts April 1st.
It's 2026. I thought it was 2026. Everything that we had.
But I can go and look.
Well, I started that. Let me just double check that.
Yeah, yes, because
When does the fiscal year start?
June, they
it's
did all this.
April 1st,
April 1st.
but they got their increase April 1st of 2024.
And that's not relevant to this,
Years, but it's,
this term's work.
so it-
Because it was in June of 2023 that this period already started. Right.
so the increase went into effect April 1st of 2024 for 2 years.
Well, it went into effect until the next one goes into effect.
so it's in effect for 2 years unless
The
we.
good news about
make-
statutes that are clear is that the statute's clear, so.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what any of us think, and
So that leads back to my question, if we're targeting a salary for April of 26, should we calculate COLA between now and that time instead of?
Well,
That's up to us.
The commission, so here's, if we just finish
I'm
that,
sorry.
the commission shall determine the salary of each member of the township board, which shall be effective at the beginning of the next fiscal year. The next fiscal year starts April 1st.
of this year,
So
twenty
what,
twenty-five.
which was exactly the intent of the last commission, which was to, instead of having to take effect a year later or 9 months later, because they met, I think, in
December.
December.
Yeah.
The idea was to have it take effect and have the work be again, to correlate more closely in terms of calendar with the work, but the statute makes it clear that it takes effect on April 1st.
Yeah, so twenty twenty-five.
Yeah, I thought it was next 26. Okay.
Yeah, so, well, my first drafts of the resolutions that I prepared said 2026 and then that group approved it.
Okay.
Take it back to the next fiscal year.
That explains.
Did that answer your question, Commissioner Greenberg?
It did, thank you.
I have a comment if it's appropriate.
Well, just,
know if
was that your last?
Is that the
Question?
last question? That's why. I
Well,
didn't
if the answer was 26, that would, I would have additional questions.
Oh, okay.
But because it's 25,
All right.
it makes them all.
So-
And I know you have a time limit. I will do full disclosure. I'm going back and listening to our last meeting. I'm gonna give a thought process I'd like to
Last
share.
meeting, the sound, oh.
The previous meeting. And what I'm gonna say is based on what I thought I heard, and if it's incorrect, I'm trying to accommodate and present it in the same way. I'm a rule follower, tell me the rules, I'm good. I have a lot of trouble with things that are not in specific parameters, so bear with me. I have thought a lot about, and I appreciated hearing from all of them. I thought it was helpful for everything. I really was interested to hear a bit of Supervisor Carey's position and duties. I understood and feel that the position and the statutory duties are what we're basing our opinions on, not the person, not particularly in a salary position, not a hourly position, such as a hired position. This is a elected position that not full-time, not part-time. And I want to share my comment is the supervisor position and the duties is about commitment to the residents of Scio Township for their legal best interests and competence to fulfill her statutory duties as assigned with a good working environment with staff, the Board of Trustees. I believe from what I've seen from the permanent manager's recruitment meetings, bringing in a new director of operations, the rapid growth of Scio, and the reality of the future recruiting that we will have as a township, which we've touched on a bit, or all elected officials to bring good candidates in requires keeping up to the level of other communities for a living wage in this community, as well as, forgive me, I wrote this so I wouldn't forget, proper salaries. It was noted at the January 30th permanent manager meeting. We need to have proper salaries to recruit good candidates. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. If we're recruiting and bringing in a director of operations at the level of the salary, if we're paying other people in all other areas, both inside employees, the board, and outside comparisons, we need to be competitive and fair. There were significant changes in the clerk and treasurer salaries based on what we received information 2021 and 2023 has left the supervisor base salary way behind. And if we, I did bring a data sheet I'd love to share. Luckily, I have a daughter that actuarial, and I said, help me. And I'm just gonna pass if we could. There's some extras here, so just see who might want one. But if you look at this and you skip way down to the bottom and just simply look at the clerk, the treasurer, and the supervisor, the officers of the township, from 2016 to 2025 salaries, our supervisor is at a 56% deficit in comparison to where the other numbers have gone. So if we had a catastrophic walkout, if we had anything go wrong, whether now or if we're waiting to have to deal with this in 2026, I could not sit at a meeting with other townships and justify what we've done, nor would I think we would be able to present and recruit ongoing people. I do believe, and I just need to go on record as my opinion, that we are hurting ourselves by not coming up with a particular possible, reasonable and fair change. And apparently it doesn't matter if we say that's because we're saying it's considered full-time responsibilities at the level of our population now. It's full-time responsibilities because we're making huge transitions from the history we've had in Scio Township for the last 10 years. If we need something to be said at that. But I personally would like to see that we would put the township supervisor and consider that, if we have to put it in as, we're writing it as a full-time position and we're basing it on the 2022 that was done by the board. We're basing it on 2021 that was written in by the compensation committee. I mean, I could do the data, and then we say that would bring the supervisor at this point to make a recommendation to bring her salary up. And the numbers are here, and then that way we get that on an even keel. We respect all the officers and what they're doing for this township and how hard they're working until 1 o'clock in the morning for meetings, all of them. And then perhaps we set a different plateau of respect in this township and how it's being run. And we also could present better to the communities around us. And if we end up recruiting and need to bring in future candidates, such as we're doing, if you look at the top of this, I had to get it in front of me because I heard this. It's just how I am. But I look at this and I think there was a remark that was made about the hiring of the director of operations that was by the board. And it was noted by one of the people on the board, and they said, we need to make sure we pay that person more than their subordinates. Interesting. Interesting. So aren't we trying to do things fair game around here? I personally feel very strongly about this. I'm sorry, I'm just bringing it at this meeting today, but I wanted to hear everyone. I respect everyone that's in this township, but I think this is an injustice. And I would like everybody to just maybe look at the data, think it through. I can reference, if I didn't make it clear, I've gone back, I've listened, I got it highlighted. I'm a numbers person.
Well, I really appreciate this sheet because it's done.
It's an easy sheet to look at. And you can, and when you have this sheet, it's helpful to go back and then look at Aurora, what you brought to us. And, interesting enough, it just, to me, it makes it work better. And I would at least like this committee to know that I feel very strongly about this. I think it would be in our best interest to make this a consideration and then move on to what we're talking about as a whole, if that's possible.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yes.
Makes sense.
Because otherwise we're gonna be doing again, so, and again, like I say, future recruiting, they've talked about it on every single, if we lose, we've got an IT person we've got to hire now, we're not gonna offer him $40,000. No way. That would be a joke.
Well,
And
Look-
again, I think Jonathan, you had some things up on a board for us.
right,
And we were looking at, okay, if we stop this part-time, full-time and just say, this job would be ridiculous to say it's a part-time job.
Well, and yeah, that's.
I mean,
that
it's
was
just-
something, but I think you're laying it out in numbers.
Yes,
Kind of.
That if where you had it doubled and we looked at we put
It still
that
came in.
position, it came in. And I'm even saying, we could do this. They just talked about something they're going to be doing with some other employees and they're gonna do it as like a 1 year, 2 year type thing. Well, maybe I'm not sitting here saying we should double something. I'm saying there should be a proper adjustment perhaps to bring to where the other employees have been brought, the other officers, and then it's gonna take some time to get this maybe working. It's not gonna all happen magically, but I think we could be fair and bring up to the 56%. That's my suggestion.
Along those lines, do we have a number for the deputy clerk?
Oh, deputy clerk?
Yeah.
No.
It's either the treasurer.
Treasurer.
We could probably get that from Aurora.
Minutes, yeah.
That would be good. And I think the other thing is, I do believe our current supervisor is actually being considerate by not asking for a deputy, I'll say it right, is it a deputy clerk? There's a lot of changes going on in this township and we just gotta try and take it step by step. And I think she is looking to earn, show what she's doing, show the new things she's doing. I think education is important and residents do turn to supervisors as well as clerks. I'm not saying anybody is paid too much. I'm saying this just doesn't make any sense to me. So that's kind of how I see it.
Okay,
Just wanted to share.
Thank you.
speaking of share, we want to try and distribute the data that we're looking at to the public.
Yep.
And we do that by having attachments to the.
Right, I'm
ordinance. So,
content if you want to do that.
yeah,
Is that what you're asking?
can you put a title up on the
Sure.
top and email it to me and
Yep.
I'll make sure that it gets on
Yep,
our,
I will.
and I'll ask, Clerk Flintoff
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and
And that
Supervisor.
methodology sheet that I did see, I had it highlighted because that was given to us as basic methodology in using for how this was done in 2023. And even though it wasn't mentioned as being a part-time and making that decision in the resolution,
Mhm.
it is mentioned in the basic methodology that was presented by Kathleen Brand.
Recognize.
So there we go again. We've got mixed information. So I'd just like to get it cleaned up and maybe try and do a better fairness in it at the B. So I'll get that to you, John. I'll have it to you this weekend.
Okay, other thoughts, for the day?
well, last meeting, when Jonathan, had put up the
Yeah.
salaries, and it appeared in a lot of them that our clerk and that were in the upper
Mhm.
range. So I was looking at that and thinking, good, and then maybe we just look at cost of living. But then in the presentations today, just this one graph that Jessica, the clerk, had, the median earnings of those with a graduate or professional degree. And
Hold on, which,
this,
okay,
so for 2025,
oh, actually, you make sure. That's the yellow, purple and blue.
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
so 2025 salary determination is significantly increased, and in all of those, the Scio Township clerk's salary is below, not a significant for, fairly, $10,000 less than the average. And if we're going to attract people with degrees and education and experience, we do need to keep our salaries up.
Now, are you talking specifically about the supervisor position?
Well,
or
this,
just the
this
general?
is what the clerk
Yeah,
presented.
okay,
But it also applies to the supervisor position and, I guess I was thinking, we just give them all a cost of living because their salaries were bumped up significantly in the last time. But just from what we're seeing here today, they were bumped up, but they're still not in competition with,
It's still a little low, yeah.
yeah,
well,
in other townships.
hold on a second. Well, okay.
Okay, well,
Go ahead, John.
I'm just,
I'm just playing devil's advocate,
Oh,
I'm sorry.
yeah, that's what we need to do here.
What, Jonathan, did you have something?
No, I was
Okay.
agreeing with the concept, the
Okay.
premise.
All right, do you have anything?
Yeah, but I can't get it out of my head.
Okay, yeah,
I'm not posting around
Yeah.
right now.
so,
Friday at 4 o'clock.
No, it's just, we've been hit with a lot of.
Yeah.
this is a lot.
Quality information.
good
Yeah.
information.
There's a
yeah.
lot
your
to
information-
sort through.
Your information this morning was really helpful. If anybody didn't take time to
Yeah.
read that, I did prioritize and it's,
And I got a whole new take on the supervisor. From what Jillian has presented here
Mhm.
and from our questions
Right.
and your thoughts just now.
yeah.
So. My thought off the top of my head is. We gotta be done in
It's
a week
Friday.
and a half. I had it in my mind that next Friday at this time, we would have numbers.
It says 2 years.
Yeah.
Do we need a meeting between now and then? to Further sort this out before we hopefully next Friday. Give them a meeting.
I actually think that'd be a good
I
idea,
think
but
I need to do full disclosure. I've been really good. I am leaving town February 22nd and I cannot change that date. So I will be here through the 21st, but I just,
Well, we have to
you
have
know,
it turned in by the
Well,
24th.
21st is when we want to have.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
just saying, I just want to make sure,
Oh,
but
okay.
yeah.
I'm
So-
suggesting we do early next week.
That sounds great to me. I only have one
Yes.
conflict and that's on Wednesday. I can do any other day
Um,
for an extra meeting. Any evening is open.
Chairman,
Excuse me, Chairman.
and so I'm sorry, Aurora.
So you were looking for the deputy
Yes.
treasurer? Okay, it is 65,000 annually.
For deputy clerk.
no, that's a deputy treasurer, I think. Did you-
I thought we were
Deputy
looking
treasurer's
for
110.
Deputy treasurer. No, that was previous. Effective in December of 2024. This is the new rate for the deputy treasurer annually.
Wait,
There was a real quirk thing that happened on that, the salary for the deputy treasurer, and I don't remember what it was, but it was,
so
Something
the actual number for the deputy treasurer is 65.
yes,
Mhm.
And the deputy clerk.
yeah. it
And
was
the deputy clerk,
$73,000.
Thank you.
And they will have to look at the parks one. I don't think the parks one is correct.
okay, can you email me and give me updated? Or just. I pulled that from somewhere, our deck.
68,000.
that's the clerk, 68.
Yeah,
No, that was the parks director, 68.
Oh.
Deputy clerk is 73.
want to remind you that if you have any question about whether you are going to complete your work next Friday, you should call a special meeting today, whether it's
Yes.
for a day
Absolutely.
next week or Monday, the 24th. So that, if, for example, you run over next Friday and decide you need to meet on Monday, there won't be time for it to be posted
Mhm.
and have you comply with the Open Meetings Act. So if you don't, one thing is you can force yourself to finish on the 21st if you don't
Right.
schedule a meeting, but you won't have time to schedule a meeting for the 24th if you wait until the end of your meeting on the 21st.
No,
And how soon could we schedule another special meeting like Tuesday? So to give enough notice?
You
Can-
can do it Tuesday and have it posted Monday.
Okay, would that work?
Even
better?
though Monday's President's Day,
No, you could not do that Tuesday. Well, you could get Christie
to do it
to
today.
post it today.
I can go
It's
get her
18
candle.
hours notice.
She's already got roses on her desk.
I mean, I
But
work-
is she gone at 4 o'clock though?
I can get a hold.
Well, if we don't,
Or you can just know that you're gonna get done.
well, I think the proposal was that we do have one.
Yeah,
Yes.
What about Wednesday afternoon?
I'm free.
Someone has, I think,
So I'll just say I'm gonna have conflicts during the day. Is there any way you can do this either at 5 or 6?
I'm flexible.
I can do that. On Wednesday, are you talking or just any
Wednesday
day?
would be great at 5 PM.
Yeah, I
If
can
that
do
works
that.
for everybody.
It's okay.
For me.
Are you available Wednesday at 5 PM?
I have real limited availability.
Yes.
Let me think about this real quick.
We don't think we can do it Tuesday
Um,
because of the holidays. How about we can't do Tuesday?
well, yeah, because Christie would need to publish it today.
Okay.
Right, so,
But Monday.
You may not get it published today.
yeah,
We could publish it Monday if we had a Tuesday meeting.
Monday's a holiday, there won't be.
Oh, yes, of course.
yeah.
Yeah, so we publish Tuesday and Wednesday. We can do it Wednesday or Thursday.
You could change your Friday meeting date to an earlier time, or you could meet twice Friday in the morning and in the afternoon. I might also suggest that at least 2 or 3 of you, that's my guess, have some idea where you think you're going, and so your last meeting may not take as long as you're thinking today.
Yeah, I have a proposal along that line.
Do you?
If we took a hat and everybody wrote down their salaries and we put it in the hat and then we looked at them and said, hey, look, we're all pretty close in alignment, we could probably save a bit of time.
Well,
Maybe not a hat, but you know what I'm saying? It's like, if we all had like, to what, Attorney Fink's saying is, we all have an idea, let's see how far off we are before we spend too much time.
I'm not sure we all agree on the principles behind the numbers yet. I'd like to see if we have some kind of consensus.
Sure.
I'd just like more time to discuss that and see if we are actually converging on something we can all get behind. And
Would
then
it
get
be
the-
fair to ask if, I know people have to leave, I don't know what time schedules are. Would it be fair to ask what the rest of the members thought about my presentation about just specifically the change in the supervisor's salary? Can we narrow one thing down at all? Can we, or have we not had enough time to think it through?
So your proposal is that just
Yep.
reiterate, your proposal is that the supervisor's position is a full-time job and should be adjusted to reflect
I think-
those hours.
Yes, I think that it has to be, there are many changes happening right now, so I think it needs to be reasonable, but upon comparisons, we went up 56% on both the clerk and the treasurer. So if we took that 56% and brought it up, at that point, just doing that would bring the supervisor to 56,160. Now, then that would be the even plateau to bring her to since the compensation commission has begun. There has been no change in her structure and her pay scale since it started in 21. And then at that point, if we made a decision or came to a higher figure, we would then somewhere in that vicinity is what I'm saying. Perhaps I would personally think it should be a bit higher. Do that and then incorporate the whatever we decide across the board, so to speak, with the COLA. Yes. And in as much as I know we haven't brought the clerk and the treasurer perhaps up to where we're gonna need to hit with Scio Township, at this point in time, they have had a big increase since 21. And so, I mean, I'd be
I-
flexible. I'm
in
just trying to say,
principle,
could we just decide anything?
In principle, I'm with you.
Okay.
It's the
It's the
degree
number.
to which we make the adjustment that's sort of rattling around in my head. I need
Okay.
time to process.
That sounds
Is
fair.
what I'm saying.
That sounds fair. So if we
Yeah.
even have a plan that, okay, may I ask one more question? John's looking at me with those eyes.
I want to, does anybody else have something you want to get in first? Okay, go ahead.
My question is then, this is like tasks done. I'm saying, does this committee here today, we had a conversation about this. Do we need more conversation regarding the trustees, which are one group? And they had a sizable increase. They've had 2 sizable increases. They are at the high plateau regarding the other areas. Can we at least verbally discuss the fact that that could be just a COLA increase?
I think.
Can we mark anything off the list? We're just not
Yeah.
making any progress, in my opinion. Well, maybe that's the wrong way to say it.
No, it's a very valid point. We have not discussed trustees up to this point.
I thought we
And
had,
I
so,
don't think we've missed anything by waiting until now.
okay,
I agree in principle with you. I do not think a significant adjustment is needed for that position. I'd even be happy leaving it as it is, COLA or no
Right.
COLA, because it's fairly well compensated right
Right.
now, in my opinion.
so I think
Okay.
we're at a pause.
All right,
I'm
all
gonna
right.
sit
I wanna-
quietly.
We have a commission to leave.
Yeah.
Let's schedule another meeting Wednesday night. I just got permission from my boss that I could do Tuesday or Wednesday night. I think Wednesday works better for somebody, but
Okay,
5 p.m., 6, 7, what
At least good for me, whatever.
anytime,
What's good for you
it
guys?
needs, 5 is the earliest it can work with you.
I could do 4.
All right, let's do 4. And are we talking Tuesday?
Wednesday, no, we have to
Are
wait.
we
till
talking, well, that's
Have to
right,
wait till
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
All right, so we have a 4 o'clock Wednesday. We have a motion to,
We have to approve the agenda, schedule.
Oh, yes,
yeah,
and the agenda, we never, or not the agenda, but.
The minute.
That later, but first we have to approve the schedule change, right?
yeah,
So there's a motion and a vote.
We're just gonna call a special meeting.
yes.
yeah. All right, so we have a motion to have a
Yes.
special meeting at
Motion
4
to
o'clock
call
on
a special
Wednesday.
meeting at 4 p.m. Wednesday.
I will second it.
Okay, further discussion, anybody?
4 o'clock's perfect.
All right, so let's have a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay, motion carries. All right, now, if you need to split, you can, and you're okay if we talk
Yes.
a little bit more. I think we have an idea what your thoughts are on the general topic, so. Everybody else is okay? 4 more minutes here?
Well,
I have a 4:30 appointment with Secretary of State. but
Well,
I get out here in 5 more minutes.
Could we do the approval of the minutes on Wednesday? Of these minutes, or can we do them real quick now?
happy to do
I think we can do it now.
Okay.
Yeah,
it.
I think we'll stay away from legal questions then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Attorney, thank you. All right, we have the minutes from, you guys all,
February 7th.
oh, you already looked through them? Okay.
1 second
here
here.
we have that same space, but. I think they printed it down. but-
Yeah. Well, I think this is a little easier. Okay.
Okay, so. I'm now okay with what we have.
As long as it's posted in the proper format, right?
Yeah.
Not like this.
I'll need to get with Christie to find out what we did here and what we didn't do, because I thought we had to fine.
Anything in the notes from.
Okay, so I have a motion to adopt.
I'm just cross-checking with my notes here to make sure nothing was left out.
Isn't democracy fun? Come on, Gerard, isn't this a riot?
It's fun.
I have a note here. We discussed cost of living increases, food, insurance, services. All that discussion, doesn't matter.
I don't know that we need to.
Okay.
correct it. Or
Yeah,
change it.
I remember saying insurance is going way up and food's going up, it was just, I threw that out there.
And I think I argued that impacts the public along with the tax bills, just like it impacts the employees that were, yeah, okay. What are you laughing at, Renee? What's the,
Valentine notes. We have
Oh.
grandkids.
oh,
Okay, right.
all right.
Motion,
We need a motion to,
minutes,
yeah, adopt the minutes from the.
fine,
February
motion to approve the minutes.
I second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, any motion carries. All right, so back to kind of hashing things out.
We also have to do.
Oh, yeah, but we wouldn't let that go. That
We
is-
just voted that in.
Yeah, we just got that in
I
the
know.
agenda.
Also
sure
on
we
the
don't
agenda
forget.
was director of operations discussion.
Yeah, and so, Jillian, I'm sorry, Supervisor Carey, handed out hard copy for us with the new job description for director of operations. In our agenda, there's also a link for that, but the link has a problem. The link has some kind of a defect in it. So I did email you all just during the meeting, director of operations,
Thank you.
yeah, a job description, but also we'll need to include that in the minutes for this meeting, so the public has that. Yeah. Okay. So with that in mind, can we get back to kind of the general topic of how how we're looking at the various positions and if we can draw some conclusions right now based on what we've already seen.
Okay, point of order though, the agenda, are we going to touch on this in our meeting?
That's what I didn't understand. I don't
Oh,
know why we-
I'm
This
sorry.
was an agenda item to actually discuss the director of operations.
All right, the reason I didn't go back, I'm sorry, the reason I didn't go back to that is, because already in the meeting, we talked about how that is reporting to the Board of Trustees. And
Yes.
I don't see any
Well, I do.
items there that are currently responsibility of
Well,
supervisor. But
I
go
do.
ahead.
If you look at page 2 of the director of operations, purchasing agent, act as the purchasing agent for the township.
Okay,
Supervisor Carey stated that's currently her
yeah,
responsibility.
and she did mention that is the one. Thank you. You are correct. She mentioned that as the one item that she'd be using.
I mean, I will continue to read this offline and just make sure that this does not further affect her current duties,
Mhm.
which would have a bearing on compensation.
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't see need to discuss it further at this time unless somebody
Okay.
else does.
Yeah, I appreciate you. pointing that-
One comment on the Director of Operations, they did indicate at the last meeting when this was being discussed, just so we keep this in mind, that this could take more than a year to fill this position. So I'm just saying that for Jeff to keep him, I hear what you're saying, I get that, but it could be a year to even hire, and it could be longer to have, you're not likely to have someone walk in and immediately start
Yeah.
being able to do all this, so we're
Okay.
talking, and I think that has something is a part of what we're looking at.
So noted.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so let's get back to the general discussion. I'm thinking that we probably have the information that we need
Thanks.
now, and it's mostly a matter in these next two meetings of hashing out where we want to go with that. Okay, now, that said, getting back to what kind of Renee was talking about is, are we at the point where we can draw some conclusions on some of the positions and feel like we've, you know, notched those off our task list. And the one that you'd kind of mentioned is that the actual trustees, maybe a COLA adjustment, but we're thinking the trustee compensation is essentially where it needs to be, maybe with a cost of living adjustment. Is that,
And possibly not.
and possibly not?
Yes, but the adjustment is small enough
Okay.
that we can, but we're in that range, right?
If I'm correct at the, I'm losing track of which meeting, I apologize. But I believe it was, and Aurora can help me with this, I believe it was at the township meeting the other night, the marathon one.
Or the
That-
trustees meeting?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm sorry, yeah, Board of Trustees, was that not, Aurora, was that not decided that the COLA was going to be used, the 3.1 was going to be used for employees, hired employees?
Correct.
Just something for us to add in to have, that we're doing, that is being done for the hourly employees.
Correct, and the item is on the agenda for the 25th.
Yes,
So for
the
next
25th,
one.
it's to be brought as a resolution,
Okay,
That's for the hired employees.
yeah,
correct?
but it's pretty easy for us to use that
Well,
as our number
I-
here, even though it's
yeah,
not officially.
I mean, I think,
I'm gonna have a hard time arguing that it should be 2.9.
yeah, or that it should be nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, someone else made the decision to put them, so the problem is if we take the salary down at all, it's unlikely that it would happen by vote by the board. I can use the word unlikely, I think. It has to be, the board has to approve to take their, if we recommended going back to 7,500 or going back to 8,000.
I don't see us lowering it.
Oh, okay, I thought, I was just trying to say, okay.
I'm saying we all seem to be,
You finished? Not yet. Oh, okay. Oh, we're.
we to be, I think, in the range of 10,000 to 10,310.
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
what I'm
that's-
talking about here.
That's
Yeah.
Right, yes,
Yeah,
okay,
so I mean, if we even,
10,000 a year for trustee, right?
Yes.
so if we could even do that and bring a resolution, to the next meeting, or do we say for, or how do we wait till the very end, Friday?
no, we can do it the next meeting.
I mean, if we were to take, we have quorum, so we could actually do a vote on trustees, am I right?
We could, and I would rather
Wait.
wait
Okay,
just for
Yeah.
Commissioner
but
Harrigan.
it sounds like we're close.
Do we want a separate proposal for each? or something
Yes.
like
They
that?
asked
Yeah.
for
Oh,
it.
that's right,
Yeah.
they did ask.
Yeah, and,
We can
and
copy. what they do.
Attorney Fink sent me example.
Oh, okay,
So
I was
we'll-
just gonna say, we have
Yeah.
the ones from 2021 and
Yeah.
2023.
Okay, and, do you want to then continue with, well, I think from what I'm hearing, the supervisor is a big open,
So maybe we can all do a little more looking into that. Hopefully something that I will make sure you'll have I'll get the data
okay,
to
Can I,
you.
can I rephrase what I think we've said today in broad strokes?
Sure.
There's a potential to recognize both an appropriate salary increase in COLA for the supervisor, probably COLA for the treasurer and clerk, if not an increase because of the distinctions we found. And then the trustees are pretty much where they should be. COLA, maybe not COLA. We'll make that determination in our next discussion. Does that sound right to what we've discussed over?
I think I heard it right. I pretty,
Yes, with one small caveat. Based on what I've been hearing about the growing duties of the clerk as population grows and the election process continues to get bigger. I mean, that was even noted in the 2024 article, was that even since 2021, 22, the election process has grown in scope and it's gonna continue to grow in scope. At some point, it'll be 30 days of elections. You're right. You're right. So I am thinking we may go above COLA for the clerk. That's fair. I'm not saying another 15% or 10% adjustment, but we should consider something above COLA.
I didn't include that in my broad strokes because I was broadly show. But yes, I agree. I think that's
Okay.
good. Especially the amount of election work that's done. There's like 100 volunteers that are involved. It's a really big coordination process, testing machines beforehand. And also, I do recognize that there's been a significant increase in clerks' tasks because it's a good point.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, I think broad strokes, I think we're all.
We're pretty close.
Okay. Pretty close, yeah.
So we refine it on Wednesday and finalize it on Friday.
Mhm.
Yep, sounds good to me.
I still will ask everybody to just consider that before we start with what we normally would be doing, we could start the conversation about the supervisor's initial change of both description and to bring her to the equal percentage playing field right now with where everybody else has been brought up, and then move forward. If you would just think about it. If
I
you
like that approach.
I mean, I just think that I think we're dealing with two different things. I think Jeff is correct what he's saying with the clerk, but I think I really believe that when you look and see that 56% is the increase that the clerk and the treasurers have had, and we're way behind, can we just start with that? And I don't know if it could be written as two separate increases, or if it's
I
gonna
think
have
we
to
just
be
make a
one
representative-
ballpark.
Just make.
and come up with
retool our
enough.
thing and come up
That sounds good. That sounds like a good
And
plan.
I like your 56%, that
If you
approach.
look at the data,
And
yeah.
then we can look at the data and see
Right.
if it falls in that
Yeah, yeah.
range, then that's.
And that's the range, just comparison of being left behind in the last two compensation committees. Then it would be up to this committee to do just what they think and have the conversation, but we're really, like I say, with moving forward in the growth, if there's one thing that one person is gonna not have to do, they're gonna have to pick up something else, and we're gonna have more meetings on commercial growth that's coming in the community, and it's gonna be booming, and in 2 years, we could be recruiting a new supervisor.
Frankly, based on what was said in this meeting and comments from Treasurer Abel, the having the supervisor as another friendly face when you walk in, being able to talk to the supervisor,
Mhm.
even if it's a 30-hour-a-week job, I would think that we as a township would want the supervisor to be available to the residents. So
I agree.
Yeah.
I think a lot of residents feel comfortable with that. You know, if they have a question, I think
being
that's
able to
a
access the
comfort
supervisor,
level.
yeah.
I mean, I spent 30 years in Dexter Township, and that was my go-to person, was the township supervisor when I had an issue and was directed otherwise or whatever, which is why I like seeing the education stuff that's backing up the position. I think we're improving the position, and I think I'd like to see us really do what I think we'll come to a place where we'll all feel comfortable, hopefully, and make some changes. It's my suggestion to just evaluate that part first and then move on, as you're saying, Jeff. Evaluate what are the changes, what's happening, you know. I mean, a finance director that's gonna come in is gonna change Jessica's, you know,
Possibly.
well, that is the idea of a finance director, is that would take away some of Jessica's responsibilities. Is that,
No, it's just a contract.
yes, correct. Who we're paying.
No, I agree,
Yeah.
we should bring it in-house, but I'm saying, I don't know. if
Yeah.
there'll be a big shift, maybe, but I don't know that the shift in justice. work.
Not big, I didn't mean that. I was just saying, it's gonna be ever changing.
No, I think you're right. I
Yeah,
think there's a
okay.
lot.
All right, so we're 4 o'clock on Wednesday. Have we missed anything other than public comments?
I think we're ready for public comments.
No
Yeah. Anybody in the audience? I don't
audience.
see anybody.
Or perhaps maybe the public.
Yeah, sorry.
We have one.
The public audience,
Public.
yes, the public.
No,
Hanging on,
I see it.
Not a king.
All right, go ahead.
We can't hear.
Okay.
Oh, Christie is this
Yeah,
account.
yeah.
Okay, I was wondering about
Oh,
that.
I see a hand up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's me.
Oh, okay.
That's me. I just clicked on that.
Okay.
So, okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Ron.
All right, so,
Rob is saying he has a hand up.
oh,
I just wondered if anybody would, sometimes
yeah,
they
are you
reach
seeing
out to
Rob?
him. Saying, are you there? He's-
Pam's saying her hand is up too.
And I was just gonna say, they sometimes text.
So- Is this the same window you're clicking here?
Hand's still up from Rob. I see the hand. I just gotta find it.
We're having technical errors. So it's not-
So we're getting a message that Wednesday at 4 is Parks Paths and is PPP. Does that matter, John? Are they in here?
Yeah, I think they're in here. We can probably find another room and.
What about the room on the other?
yeah,
Well, we
another
wouldn't have,
laptop.
we wouldn't, it won't be an open meeting though. We won't have
Well,
recording, right?
I think we.
The
can-
conference room.
Oh, we may not be able to use the account, the same account.
I don't know. I don't know if we would be able to follow.
Yeah,
Right,
I think you have to be in this room to get the Zoom
Right.
and everything.
the Zoom and the, yeah.
Okay. Oh, Rob is asking to have Jess and Jillian's handouts in the agenda packet.
Yeah, those
Did you
will
get
be, those will be, the
Actually,
handouts.
he's saying that was really his only public comment.
Oh,
I
okay.
guess he's decided I'm taking notes, right? I'm expecting any minute he'll call and say,
Yeah.
put me on speaker. Okay, so that's, yeah.
It's odd. It's like you can't click on the
Yeah.
participants.
There's no, the participants,
Right.
there's 4 attendees, but they're not letting us see.
Okay. What? Who's the other? Did Pam have a comment?
She had her hand up, she said.
Oh, and she's calling.
But
Does somebody want to call and I'll hold the phone up to the
I'm
speaker?
gonna take, this is our second public comment. This is Pamela Boyd.
Okay, so my understanding that in the past, and Aurora will need to confirm this, is that the trustees or the elected officers have not taken COLA. Now, that doesn't mean that you cannot add in COLA for them. But I'm not sure if you guys discussed the fact that it hasn't happened.
Yeah.
As I recall, in the past.
You are correct,
Yeah.
and so we were just using that as a reference point. It isn't actually a cost of living, it isn't actually COLA, just a cost of living.
So for the public, Pam was asking about the cost of living increase not
Okay,
being
thanks.
used in the past. But again, it's just, the end goal is for us to recommend a salary.
Right.
How we
An
get
amount.
there,
I agree.
we can use.
Yeah.
one of the-
We can't reference it as that.
Rob, I wanted to also give you an opportunity to comment, since this comment period is here because of you, primarily your request. Do you want to give me a call and I will broadcast your comments? Since we can't seem to get Zoom to work. Yes, he does. What, Rob? Go ahead.
Public comments. That Wednesday is the Parks Committee at 4 p.m. I need to mute here.
What time we'll figure out, but maybe we can meet after? Or,
Yeah, that might be, we'll try and get a read Tuesday and,
thank you, Rob. Anything else?
The other rooms, so if you want to, you'll have a feeling for open meetings. There's, that's not available. one of the other room.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate
Thanks, Rob. All right.
Thanks, Rob.
We can record the meeting on somebody's cell phone.
Yeah.
I got a camera we can use.
Right.
that
Yeah, or
We have a
webcam.
camera.
Yeah, so, so in terms of the actual time for the meeting on Wednesday, we still have an open issue there we'll need to resolve.
Okay,
If we can move to another room and do four, I would prefer that, but I'll be flexible.
Yeah.
Did you want me to look at, the posted meetings on the township website? Maybe,
Actually, can you give us an idea how long that, that 4 o'clock meeting typically runs?
yeah, that's,
And, I don't, I guess the, respective audiences might be the same people, so they wouldn't want us to run in parallel.
Oh, yeah, that's fine. That's a good point.
But, you
But
know,
we're also coming up against a pretty hard deadline.
timeline.
yeah. And I think our meeting's probably a lot more exciting than pretty much any of those other meetings, so.
Everyone wants to hang out with the cool kids.
So which meeting did Rob say is their mark?
Parks and Pathways.
Okay,
Yeah, we'll work.
well, Jonathan, you probably know how long Parks and Pathways meetings typically are, is that gonna be a 2-hour meeting, or is it?
I show up to. Listen, I don't-
Okay, all right,
We can look it up. We'll figure it out, but one way or the other, we'll email everyone.
yeah. Okay, so then let's go ahead and have a motion to adjourn. Oh, the last one's 2 hours and 14 minutes, so it may not. All right, so Renee has a motion to adjourn. I think I saw that,
Mhm.
and I'll second that. Discussion,
I concur.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion carried, we are adjourned at 4:41.